But in this training today, we're gonna be talking about 4 things that you can do right now to find relief from your IBD as soon as today. These 4 things we're gonna briefly go over here. It's going to be supplements, castor oil, elimination diets. We'll talk about several options as well as what you can do to work on your nervous system and how that translates to the rest. Now, please remember, these are immediate relief and immediate measures to give you quick relief. They're not permanent solutions, and we'll get through some tangible steps in detail as we go here. Now, if you're new here, my name is Josh Deck. I'm a holistic nutritionist, IBD specialist, medical lecturer, and of course, a physician's consultant for IBD. So your Crohn's, colitis, and even severe IBS that we do help with. We've helped hundreds of people reverse their disease, come off medication, and get their lives back to normal. And so I'm here to show you that there is hope. My goal in this episode is to give you more information in like 25 minutes than your doctor has since your diagnosis, even if it's been 25 years. Number 1, we're talking about 4 things you can do right now to get relief from your IBD. The first thing is going to be nice and easy, guys. The first thing we're talking about is supplements. A lot of people take supplements, remember this, as plant-based medication. In the instance I'm giving you them today, that's effectively what they are. It is a temporary measure used to give you immediate relief, but it's not actually there to give you a permanent solution. For example, the supplements we're going to talk about today give you relief from inflammation. They can help rebuild tissue, right? It's like putting water on a fire, but the fire is still burning. There's a fire in your house, there's a gas leak, and we're pouring water on it, but not turning off the gas. So keep that in mind during this process. These are quick relief things. So the first thing I want to talk about, these are some really beautiful ones that I've used over the years with so many clients. And we've seen some incredible results for people. The first one we're talking about is going to be slippery elm. Now, slippery elm, it's actually the inner bark of an elm tree that's been taken down and just sort of turned down to a super fine powder. When you can take this in capsule form, personally, I prefer to put it in water. And so what I'll do is I'll actually take a teaspoon or so, put it in a little cup of water, itty bitty like a shot glass, and mix it with water, let it drip in and stir it up until it makes almost like gloopy Jello is the word I'm looking for. If you were to take Jello and mash it with your hands, it makes this gloopy sensation. That's what we want. And what it does, slippery elm, is what we call a mucogenic. I'll write that on the board here. That's mucogenic. Genesis meaning creation, muco meaning mucus. It helps create this gut lining. Think of it like putting a sock on in a shoe that's causing you pain or you're getting a blister. It creates this mucus membrane layer and helps contribute to some of that. It can have an anti-inflammatory and a really nice cooling effect. But again, keep in mind, if you're reliant on slippery elm to feel better, you've not put out the fire. All you've done at this stage is just put water on it, which sometimes is what we need right now, very quickly. And so I can't give you exact dosing and say you should take this, but what I will say is I've had people take anywhere from 1 teaspoon to 1 tablespoon, TBSP, that's what I was looking for, and they will do that 15 to 30 minutes before food. Now, by taking this, what it's doing is getting in, it's coating the gut, and that can actually create some bulk to the stool as well. So not only does it act as a mucogenic, a soother, a cooler, but it can also add bulk to that stool, which can help relieve some of the diarrhea you might be experiencing, but it's also a mediator. If you're constipated, it can add some nice fiber in there to help things move through a little bit quicker. And so slippery elm makes the top of my list for supplements to give relief to IBD. The next one, which works relatively similarly, is aloe vera. Now watch for this one. Aloe vera, there's different kinds of aloe vera. Just a general aloe vera is great. They can have antimicrobial effects, but you want to watch because a lot of aloes you'll buy come in like a juice. And so it's an aloe vera juice, which has a ton of sugar and a lot of additives and coloring and all kinds of things that inflame your gut anyways. And so if you're consuming aloe vera, you can get it in a nice medicinal capsule. You can get the preserve-free juice. Here in Canada and in the US, I recommend, there's one I quite like, no affiliation, called Lily of the Desert. I believe it's the purple one or the green. Now I can't remember, but there's a purple and a green label. One is preservative free. It's got a lower shelf life, but it avoids those preservatives that are causing damage to our gut microbiomes. And so I like aloe vera. This can be taken sometimes capsules. If there's capsules, it can be 1 to 2 caps. Sometimes anywhere from 1 to 3 times daily. Some people take them before food, before bed, or we can even take liquid. So think 1 ounce, again, 2 to 3 times daily. But keep in mind, I'm not saying you should take these. I know nothing about you. These are just what tend to be really well accepted, decent dosing for people taking some of these supplements who get good results. But always ease in, and I'm legally obligated to tell you to talk to your doctor, whether they agree with this or not. But the reason we say ease into it, because some people taking slippery elm or aloe might get diarrhea if you're sensitive to it, or depending on what's going on in your bowel. So I'm recommending these as a general, here's some things that people get benefits from. So other supplements that I like to use in here, another good one, people see curcumin, and we see this one used a lot. You might see turmeric, curcumin, same, curcuma longa it's called. But what I want to use is the nano form. I know we do have a link to Nutridyne for that one, a great company that we like. Again, they're just a third generation functional medicine company. But nano curcumin or liposomal curcumin is much better off because curcumin by itself is not what we call bioavailable. It's very hard to absorb into the body. They've actually been experimenting with curcumin in utilizing it in things like growing it in mycelia and like mushrooms to increase the bioavailability. Now, if you're listening to this right now and you're like, Josh, I have heard all the things under the sun. These herbs, these supplements don't help me. You might be a more severe case, and that's okay. This supplement section may not be for you. It doesn't mean nothing here is for you. It means that everyone's going to be unique. And this is why when we do custom work with people directly through our programs, these aren't broad recommendations we give everyone. These are general that we're saying for the population. So hang in there. We got more coming for you. But nano curcumin, it's more bioavailable. Okay, and this one has been shown to help with inflammation. Some people respond extremely well. Again, it's water on the fire. We're not turning off the gas, but it can help with some of the symptoms. And so curcumin or the nano form can be great. I'm gonna zip through some of these other ones so we don't keep you guys all day. But other ones I really like, be careful again with the spice. Some people are sensitive, but ginger, you can get ginger capsules, powders, you can cook with it, you can get raw ginger. I'm a big fan of honey, lemon, ginger tea, but you have to watch the honey. Again, honey, even though it's a sugar, can have great anti-inflammatory effects. It can be antimicrobial. Even like raw organic honey, it doesn't have to be Manuka honey. It can be a raw organic honey, which is perfectly fine. But a honey lemon ginger tea is so good, and it's delicious, and it's soothing, and it can help coat and cool and soothe the gut as well. So other things that we want to look at: rosemary, a beautiful one to cook with, rosemary oils, rosemary extracts, rosemary teas if you're into that sort of thing. These are wonderfully anti-inflammatory, these products, these herbs. Other ones that we'll see, I'm just tearing through these quickly for you guys, is boswellia, super potent anti-inflammatory effects, and licorice. Now you may see licorice, people might demonize licorice a bit and say, well, licorice is going to be hard on you if you have high blood pressure. It's true, which is why we actually have a form called DGL. This is deglycerinated licorice root, and that takes out some of the parts that can spike that blood pressure if you already have blood pressure issues. On the other hand, my wife has chronically low blood pressure. I give her licorice capsules every day and it keeps her normal and she feels better. She's not fatigued. And so there are benefits to weigh with these things. Now, not only do I want to give you the things that I like to use with people, I also want to tell you what to avoid and give you some cautions. So in the supplement world, a lot of people are jumping in using supplements they heard are good. We talked about this last week, where not all things are all good for all people. Everyone's going to be different. If we don't have a purpose for our supplements, we don't have an end goal for our supplements, it's just plant-based medication. But many of you are looking for quick relief. These ones can do that. But I want to caution you against a few. I want to caution you against supplements like black walnut. I'm going to list a few more, but the reason I'm listing things like black walnut or grapeseed extract, these types of supplements, they are antifungal, antimicrobial. If you have a fungal or a microbial issue that's contributing to your inflammation and you go knocking it down to try to lower your levels and your cup is already full, we talked about drainage last week. If your cup is already full and it's overflowing, you have symptoms. But when you start throwing in things like black walnut, grapeseed, we have different ones that we can use as well. Cat's claw, which can modulate the immune system. Sometimes curcumin can do that too, so be careful. There's lots of these different antimicrobials, oregano and thyme, lemon balm. All of these supplements, we have to be careful because you don't know. If you don't know what is causing your problem and what is driving your inflammation, By taking antimicrobials, antifungals arbitrarily, you very well may be overflowing the cup when drainage is not proper, contributing to the problem that you're having. So be very careful when consuming supplements. Know their purpose, know the cause, and ease into things if you want to use any kind of natural herb or remedy. Okay? So that's my quick list of supplements that can help right now. Now the next one we're talking about, the next thing you can do to get relief almost very quickly is something called castor oil. Now, castor oil, some might make the argument it's kind of a miracle oil, and it can and it can't be. You can consume it orally as a bit of a laxative, so be careful with that, but it's typically used topically, what we call a castor oil pack. Now you can make these yourself. You basically take a teaspoon to a tablespoon of olive oil, of castor oil, and you put it on this pack. Now there is a great brand, again, no affiliation, I just like their quality, and that's Queen of Thrones by Dr. Marisol. And they're all organic, they're all pesticide-free cotton and flannel, and they're really high quality, so you're not absorbing more chemicals. But what we do is we take a tablespoon, I have a pack, I should have brought it, I could have shown you guys, but it's this little piece of fabric with some nice strings. You wrap it around and tie it up after putting the oil on the inside. It sits against your skin. You can wear that for 15 minutes a night with a heat pack if you choose. You don't always need them depending on the pack you use. And that absorbs and gets into the body. It's best done topically over the areas that are inflamed. If it's your intestines, most people with IBD, I recommend putting it over their liver, at least over the liver and the bowel, because this helps with so many different things. Remember, we just mentioned the word drainage, right? If your cup is full, and you're overflowing, you've now got symptoms. Well, these toxins, if we just go to take all these antifungals, antimicrobials, all these things, we overflow more. But if we want to get things out properly, we put drainage, this is out the bottom of the cup. Drainage is how things exit the body. Drainage is your liver. Drainage is your kidneys, your lymphatics, your skin, your sinuses, your lungs. It's going to go through the bowels and the bladder. These are outdoors or transport doors for toxins and things in the body. Castor oil can improve this. Right now, so many of us have blocked drainage, and so you're not able to drain these toxins. They build up in your body. Your inflammation gets worse. You find yourself flaring more frequently or more easily. You have multiple autoimmune conditions. You have more illnesses, more symptoms, more skin problems, more hair problems. You have more hormonal issues, cognitive issues, sleep issues, mood problems. They're piling up because your cup is filling up, you're overflowing, and the rest of the house is wet. We have to drain. Castor oil is a really beneficial product used for drainage, number one. It can help with lymphatic flow, it can help with liver detoxification and bile flow, and bile ducts are a huge part of drainage that most people miss. But it's also really great for a few different things. So I'm going to put drainage here on the list, but it's also really great for pain relief, or it can be anti-inflammatory or have anti-inflammatory properties. Castor oil has been shown to greatly reduce inflammation and pain. Remember, inflammation is just dilated blood vessels putting pressure or sensitizing nerves that causes irritation. It brings in the cavalry of all the immune cells and cytokines and prostaglandins and inflammatory things. And this pressure on the nerve, sensitization of nerves, sends a signal to your brain you interpret as pain. And castor oil can bring a lot of that down and help modulate. It also empties the cup so you stop spilling over. It can help in this process of helping you reduce the frequency, intensity of flares or other illnesses and symptoms by helping get things out of the body. And again, it's best applied topically. And the typical instructions you'll see will be 1 tablespoon applied to your pad or your castor oil pack. And that's going to be 15 minutes a night. Or what I'll have some of my clients do is sleep with it anywhere from 1 to 4 times per week, depending on how much drainage that they can actually handle, because you can drain too much and get sick as well. It's a very touch and go process, but castor oil can be really amazing, a really amazing product. And so we do recommend getting high quality castor oil, organic castor oil, and castor oil packs made from cotton and flannel. That way you're not absorbing a lot of these chemicals and junk that might be in the cheap ones you buy on Amazon. And this is why, again, no affiliation. I just really like the brand Queen of Thrones. And they do have some really great stuff in my experience. The third thing we can do to get quick relief fast. Some people respond extremely well, some people not so much. This is the Elimination Diet. Now, we talked about these a fair bit last week. We went into the carnivore diet and why it works and how it works, and it's worth mentioning. The gold standard of the elimination diet is to cut back to basically nothing. Now, I don't recommend the white diet. The white diet is white breads, white pasta, white carbs, white starch, white food, white potato chips, whatever it is, I don't care. The reason that clinicians, doctors, dietitians might recommend the white diet is because most of that food breaks down inside your mouth by the amylase, that starch. If you chew it for about a minute, it turns to sugar. It's basically absorbing in your mouth. There's no mechanical work required by your digestive system. And so what we say is go to elimination diet, but make sure they're quality foods. And so I've had people cut down. Some people will go a strict carnivore diet. Some people can't consume meat. Some people can maybe do fish or something else instead. The gold standard would be cutting down to one food and eating that for 1 to 2 weeks and give your body a chance to clear. And then and some people are going, Josh, F you, that's way too hard, but hear me out. Then we add one food every 3 to 4 days. And why do we do this? Because IgGs, that's something we commonly see associated with food or inflammatory food sensitivities, these food responses. It's called IgG, that's immunoglobulin G. And what happens is these take 3 to 4 days to build in the system. So if I'm eating nothing but ground beef right now, perfect. That's all I'm going to eat. I want to see what's causing me inflammation and causing me to overflow. Back to the cup analogy. Most people go, well, I'm sensitive to that food, I should cut it out forever. What's happening is the cells in your intestines are currently leaking. You have this big gap in between them. And so they're leaking, allowing large molecules to come through, entering your blood. That circulates around and triggers an immune response because a big piece of ground beef shouldn't be in your blood. So it triggers an immune response and now you're sensitive to it. But you're not actually allergic to it. You just have to seal up your gut. Your body will stop reacting with this immune response. You can go back to eating it. So all we're doing right now is a temporary measure. Picture your cup is already full. And right now it's just bubbling. It's got a brim of water. You've ever filled up a glass till it has this bubble on top? And one drop too much and it overflows. That's basically what we're doing with the elimination diet. We're just trying not to contribute to the glass, and that's why we do these. So some people might go carnivore, some people might go pescatarian. The more you eliminate, the better. And this is why I say bear with me. Some people right now, I had people argue with me about gluten or, I shit you not, I had somebody tell me, well, Taco Bell doesn't bother me, so I'm gonna keep eating it. Like, you're making bad choices and you're on your own. The idea is we want to eliminate as many foods as we can possibly tolerate for at least 2 weeks to clear. Because these IgGs, this is why we say one food every 3 to 4 days. It takes 3 to 4 days to peak in your system, 2 to 3 weeks to clear from your system. And this is why we want to clear everything for at least 2 weeks, eliminate down through as many foods as you can possibly handle, or as few foods as you can handle, and then we're going to work our way back up at one food every 3 to 4 days. I got a hair or something stuck in my mouth. Ugh. And so that's the idea. That's why we do it. The more you can eliminate, the more factors you can get rid of. If you cut down to 10 foods and you're eating 50 foods right now, it's a good step. You've cut down by 80%. On the other hand, if you cut down from 50 foods to one food, you're getting more precise results. And so the idea is cut down to what you can and work your way back up. That's why we do elimination. Some people go Mediterranean, some people go carnivore, some people go whatever, some people go mix. It's based on foods I know I can tolerate, and that's okay too. That's what elimination does. It just doesn't overflow the cup while we are working on healing everything else and repairing and getting to your root cause. That's very important. What I do not condone and I do not recommend, and I say this generally speaking because some people have had really good results with it. And I will never argue with results, even though in my brain the science may not add up and I go, yeah, that doesn't make sense, that's not a good fit, maybe you shouldn't be doing that. If the results prove and speak for themselves, I will shut my mouth. And so in this case, I do not recommend a raw vegan diet. I have seen very few people be successful going on a raw vegan diet, but it's happened. But because of the scarcity of the numbers that it's happened for, I can't recommend it in good conscience, and that's why I say that. But some people go to a raw juice, a raw whatever. But again, you're taking in foods. If you're on a raw vegan, like a juice diet, you are not requiring mechanical load out of inflamed tissue. You're not requiring your body to run on a sprained ankle, therefore you don't feel the pain. Same thing, if you're not consuming foods that require your body to mechanically move and manipulate and break down and digest and absorb, perfect. you're going to take the pressure off. And sometimes a juice cleanse does that, but it's a temporary measure. You have to introduce food eventually, right? And that's the idea. So that's all elimination diets are, but they are the gold standard still of like dietary sensitivities. And that's what we want to look at. So the next thing we're going to look at, this is number 4, is your CNS. We call the central nervous system. Now there are a few different nervous systems in the body. So I'm going to say your CNS, that's the central nervous system. Then you have your PNS, which is peripheral. That's going to be anything away from the brain and spinal cord. So CNS is going to be brain and spinal cord. Spine on the board, there we go. I'm trying to figure out how to spell spine, God help me. PNS is peripheral. So think arms, legs, etc. So anything away from the brain and spinal cord. And then you have what's called your enteric nervous system. And this is going to be your gut. Your central nervous system has billions of different neurons. Your enteric nervous system has approximately 400 to 500 million neurons. This means inside of your digestive system, there's an entire nervous system. This electrical conductivity, it's wired into your spine, it's wired into your brain through like the vagus nerve, for example. 400 to 500 million little connections and firing signals in there. Now, in birth, your brain and your gut are actually the same tissue. In utero, when you're in your mother's womb, they are the same tissue, the same cells that actually bifurcate, they split apart and become 2 different organs, but they originate from the same place and operate a lot in the same way, similar to like a gut feeling or whatever it may be. And so your central nervous system is the master control regulator that governs both of these, but it gets feedback from your enteric and your peripheral. So your brain and spinal cord get feedback from your gut and from your peripheral, so your arms and legs, what you touch and feel and how you move. In fact, that's how I stand. When I'm looking around, my eye is perceiving, my central nervous system is processing. I'm getting sensations back from my peripheral, so my feet are touching the ground and moving around the muscles, and that's how I keep balance. It's proprioception and feeling the ground. It's this communication between all these things. What's interesting, there is, like I said, a feedback loop. So for you science nerds out there, we call this afferent and efferent. And these are the different pathways. It means to and from. Now I'm getting signals from my enteric nervous system. My gut goes up to my brain and my brain goes back down to my gut. So for those of you, for example, with bowel-related or bowel-induced anxiety, let's look at this. Which came first, the anxiety or the gut issues? And they can feed back into each other. And this is why we have to be so mindful of our nervous system. Some people talk as it's like the be-all, end-all, the only thing you need to focus on. That's not true, but it's an important part of the puzzle. Because if you're high stress, for example, you got 5 kids and you're taking them to soccer, you shove them in the van, pop food down your throat, swallow it like a pelican, don't chew, you're on the go, you're in fight and flight, you're not in rest and digest. Fight and flight means you're gonna have less stomach acid, poor GI motility, less digestive enzyme production, less food breakdown, you're burning through your nutrients more and you're already at a deficit because you're not absorbing because your gut's inflamed and your body's just not breaking them down to bring in what it needs. You're constantly in the red. And so relaxing, taking a couple of breaths, getting into meditation, exercising gently, these things are really beneficial to getting in to enhance that positive feedback, that rest and digest from your body or from your nervous system. And so if your enteric nervous system is inflamed, another reason why it's so important, this is sending signals here back to the brain through what we call a cell danger response. That's one of them. It's gonna have some chemical signals that it sends back to the brain. And we have these inflammation processes, we have these chemical processes, we have these signal responses saying there's something wrong, there's a fire. So there's an alarm going off in your body and City Hall is getting the signal going, there's a problem and everyone's on alert. And you wonder why your gut can cause anxiety. It comes from a cell danger response, it can be chemical. That's going to be toxins and stuff floating through the body as well. We can also have neurotransmitters is another way. 90% or so of your neurotransmitters, your happy chemicals, your focus chemicals, your mood chemicals, they're made inside your gut. And if your factory's on fire, you're not going to produce what you want to produce. Therefore, if your gut is inflamed, you're not going to produce the chemicals you need to keep your nervous system balanced, and now everything gets all wacky. And this is where the nervous system comes into play. And so we can look at rest and digest, relaxation, breath work can be incredible to induce states of euphoria, to put you into rest digest, even simple things like eating with your feet touching the floor. Just touching your feet on the floor, not being on the go. Taking a few breaths before you eat can be a really good benefit. Exercise can be good, and I'll caution about this one, but exercise can be great. Going for walks, go for a swim, some lightweight training. And on the other hand, we want to induce rest digest, but all stress is stress. But we have two kinds of stress. So we have what's called eustress, and we have what's called distress. Eustress is positive. That's like, I'm working towards something. I'm enjoying this. This gives me purpose and meaning. It's hard work, but I love it. I'm exercising, but I'm into it. Distress is stressful. Arguments, sickness, illness, injuries, overtraining is a distress. It can be both things, but it's typically a distress. And this is where I caution, exercise can be amazing, but my caution to you is going to be watch out for overtraining. We get so many people who are going in, they're doing really what we call HIIT. So it's high intensity interval training. Most of our population cannot physically, I'd say 90+% should not be doing HIIT training. If you're doing it, stop. What we want to do instead is some light workouts. So we can do single joint movements for right now. We just don't want to over toxify or dump things in the body. We can look at single joint movements. We can look at 8, 10, 12 reps, not producing a lot of lactic acid, but stimulating your movement. We can look at things that are not loading the spine, like heavy squats or heavy deadlifts, but think about movement. Again, cycling, any kind of swimming, any kind of sports, court sports, tennis, ping pong, something where you move your body in gentle weight exercises. We don't want to go high intensity. We don't want to be slamming yourself to the ground and doing super intense workouts that build up a ton of lactic acid. Because what happens? Your body's already toxic. Your liver's already full of junk. That has to process. Your liver filters 4 liters of blood per minute. Where does lactic acid go? From the muscles it's produced as a byproduct. It gets into your blood, it circulates, filters in the liver, and it can dump right down the gut. If you're someone who gets exercise-induced diarrhea, that's lactic acid dumping down the bile ducts and into your GI and just flushing through you because your body can't handle it. It causes irritation in the gut, causes diarrhea. So our exercise is great, but it's about rest and recovery. So think about an athlete who's overtrained or they're injured. What are they doing? They're light work. They're 60-70%, what we call RPE, that's rate of perceived exertion. You get done and you go, that was a 6 out of 10 hard. Perfect. That's the amount we want. That's appropriate for you. 30 minutes a day, get moving. This is going to be recovering your body. You don't have to be doing a hard workout to be doing benefits for your body. The exercise is only as good as the recovery, and that's very important here. Here's a quick summary of what we talked about. Number one, we went through some supplements. Supplements can be really beneficial, but again, the ones that we listed today were primarily designed for quick, immediate relief. So these are going to be your slippery elms, your aloe, your Nano Curcumin, the bioavailable forms, a liposomal curcumin, ginger, rosemary, boswellia. We talked about licorice and DGL. The ones we want to avoid are the antimicrobials, the things like your Pau d'Arco. That's one that's often used for candida, oregano, thyme, black walnut, black seed oil, cat's claw. These can really drive a lot of fungus or a lot of microbes and sort of dead waste products into a filled up system. So we have to work on other things first. Even have some caution around curcumin because it can drive the immune system depending on the case scenario. The second one we talked about was castor oil. Castor oil is a wonderful product. It has anti-inflammatory properties. It can aid in lymphatic and liver health and bile flow. It can aid in drainage. It can create pain relief and help with inflammation. That's typically done applied topically with a pack, either like an organic cotton or flannel. And that can be worn 15 minutes a night for some people. Some people can tolerate it 1 to 4 nights on top of that where they're sleeping with it during the week. Depends on how much you tolerate, but it can be really beneficial for clearing things out of the body. The third thing we talked about was an elimination diet. The purpose of this, again, is just to not overflow your cup. If you're already full or you're brimming over, elimination is just removing these last couple of drops that will cause your bucket to overflow. And that's why we want to avoid it. And so that can look like just reducing the amount of foods you eat for a good 2 weeks, then introducing slowly, provided you get relief, if not reduce back further, and then introducing every 3 to 4 days. And that's for those IgG levels. That's the immunoglobulin G, the immune response. They build up in about 3 to 4 days by consumption, and they peak in 3 to 4 days and take about 2 weeks to come down. And this is why we add one food every couple of days, see how you're feeling. If you get inflamed, back off for another week or two, and then add another food and another food. If you're feeling good, keep adding the foods. The last one we talked about was your nervous system. And that one, again, is your CNS, your PNS, and your ENS. That's your central nervous system, brain and spinal cord, how that master regulates the rest of your body. Your peripheral, which is just arms and legs, not super relevant right now, but your enteric, the ENS, the enteric nervous system, that's inside of your gut. There are nerves, 400 to 500 million neurons. They communicate back and forth, up and down to your brain. Everything works together. And it's very important to understand these connections because most people just brush them off. So guys, that's all we got for you for tonight. So glad you came out. Thank you for being here. If you need help, if you've been on the fence, if you've been watching this for a long time, you're ready to move in, just don't wait. Biggest regret we have from people coming in is just not moving sooner. Comment the word solution. We can have that conversation with you about what it looks like and what kind of help you can get. If you're here listening on the podcast or watching the YouTube, check the links below on how to get help. Until next time, guys, I'll see you all next week. Thanks so much for coming.